I'm writing this because I need to get something off my chest, and I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, some of you can help me figure out what to do. My name is Emily, and I'm 33 years old. My husband, Tom, is the love of my life, and he's dying. But that's not even the worst part. Tom and I have been together for almost a decade. We met when I was 23, and from the moment we started dating, I knew he was the one. He was everything I had ever wanted in a partner. Kind, funny, smart, and so full of life. We moved in together after a year of dating, got married 2 years later, and spent the next few years building our lives together. We were happy. No, we were more than happy. We were one of those couples that people envied because we genuinely loved each other and were best friends. Before everything went wrong, Tom and I had what I would describe as an idyllic relationship. We were that couple everyone wanted to be. We laughed a lot, fought rarely, and shared a passion for travel, good food, and lazy Sundays spent in bed. Tom was the kind of man who would surprise me with flowers just because, who remembered all the little details that made me feel special. He was my rock, the person I turned to when things got tough, and I knew I could rely on him no matter what. We used to talk about our future a lot. We had dreams of buying a house in the suburbs, raising a couple of kids, and growing old together. Tom wanted to coach our future son's little league team, while I dreamed of starting my own business once we had kids, and I stepped away from my corporate job. We were planning a life together that seemed so certain, so tangible. We thought we had all the time in the world. But life doesn't always go the way you plan, does it? About 3 years ago, Tom started getting sick. At first, it was just fatigue. He was tired all the time, even after a full night's sleep. Then, he started losing weight, getting bruises that wouldn't heal, and he had this persistent cough that just wouldn't go away. We both thought it was stress from work or maybe a lingering flu, but deep down, I think we both knew it was something more. The day we got the diagnosis is seared into my memory. We were sitting in the doctor's office, waiting for what felt like hours, and when the doctor finally came in, I could tell from his face that it wasn't good news. "Tom, I'm afraid you have leukemia," he said, and just like that, our world fell apart. We both went numb. Tom tried to stay strong, tried to reassure me that we would fight this, but I could see the fear in his eyes. I was terrified too, but I tried to be brave for him. We talked about treatment options, about chemotherapy and radiation, and we told ourselves that this was just a bump in the road, that we would get through it together. Tom's battle with leukemia was grueling. He went through multiple rounds of chemotherapy, each one leaving him weaker than before. There were days when he couldn't get out of bed, when the nausea and pain were so bad that all he could do was lie there, pale and shaking. I was by his side every step of the way, doing everything I could to take care of him. I took time off work to be with him, to drive him to appointments, to hold his hand when the pain got too much to bear. I tried to stay positive, to be the rock that Tom had always been for me, but it was hard. Watching the man you love suffer, watching him slowly waste away, is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. But we kept fighting. Tom was determined to beat this, and I was determined to believe that he could. We had to. There was no other option. For a while, it seemed like the treatments were working. Tom's blood counts improved, and the doctors were cautiously optimistic. We allowed ourselves to hope again, to dream of a future where Tom was healthy and we could go back to the life we had before. But it didn't last. The cancer came back, more aggressive than before, and the doctors told us that there was nothing more they could do. Tom's leukemia was terminal, and it was just a matter of time. After we got the news that Tom's cancer was terminal, something inside me broke. I had been holding on so tightly, trying to keep it together for so long, and suddenly I couldn't anymore. I felt like I was drowning in grief, in fear, in the overwhelming sense of helplessness that came with knowing I was going to lose the love of my life and there was nothing I could do to stop it. That's when I started pulling away from Tom. Not physically. I was still there with him every day, taking care of him, holding his hand, telling him I loved him. But emotionally, I started to shut down. It was too painful to be so close to him, to see the man I loved fading away in front of my eyes. I didn't know how to cope with the reality that he was dying, that our future was slipping through my fingers like sand. And that's when I met Harry. Harry was a colleague of mine. We had worked together for years, but we had never been particularly close. He was friendly, easy to talk to, and after Tom's diagnosis, he started checking in on me more often. At first, it was just small talk. How was Tom doing? How was I holding up? But over time, our conversations became more personal. Harry became someone I could confide in, someone who understood what I was going through. Or at least, that's what I told myself. One night, after a particularly bad day, I went out for drinks with Harry. I hadn't planned on it. I just needed to get out of the house to escape the reality of Tom's illness for a little while. Harry offered to keep me company, and I accepted. We ended up at a quiet bar, and after a few drinks, I found myself opening up to him in ways I hadn't with anyone else. I told him how scared I was, how lost I felt, how I didn't know how to keep going. Harry listened. He didn't try to give me advice or tell me that everything would be okay. He just listened. And in that moment, I felt a connection with him that I hadn't felt with anyone in a long time. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were kissing. I wish I could say that I stopped it there, that I realized what I was doing and walked away. But I didn't. We ended up at his place, and I slept with him. The guilt hit me like a ton of bricks the moment it was over. I couldn't believe what I had done. I had betrayed Tom, the man who had been nothing but good to me, the man who was dying. I told myself it was a one-time thing, a mistake that would never happen again. But it did. Over the next few weeks, I kept going back to Harry. I don't know why. Maybe it was because he made me feel alive when everything else in my life felt like it was falling apart. Maybe it was because I needed an escape, something to distract me from the pain of watching Tom die. Whatever the reason, I couldn't stop. And then, a few weeks ago, I found out I was pregnant. When I saw the positive pregnancy test, I didn't know what to think. I was in shock. I hadn't planned on getting pregnant. How could I when my husband was dying? But there it was, staring me in the face. I was going to have a baby, and I had no idea if it was Tom's or Harry's. My first instinct was to tell Tom. I had to. I couldn't keep something like this from him, not when he was so close to the end. So I told him, and his reaction was everything I had feared and more. He was overjoyed. He cried tears of happiness, telling me that this was a miracle, something to keep him going in his final days. He said that this baby was a sign that our love would live on, even after he was gone. I wanted to die. How could I tell him the truth? How could I shatter his happiness, his last bit of hope, by telling him that the baby he was so excited about might not be his? So I didn't. I let him believe that the baby was his, that we had created this life together. I let him hold on to that hope, even though it was based on a lie. And now, here I am, torn apart by guilt and fear. I don't know what to do. Tom is getting weaker by the day, and I know he doesn't have much time left. Part of me thinks I should tell him the truth, that he deserves to know before he dies. But another part of me is terrified of what that truth will do to him. What if it breaks him? What if it takes away the last bit of happiness he has left? I've thought about keeping the secret forever, about letting him die believing that the baby is his. But how can I live with myself if I do that? How can I carry this secret for the rest of my life, knowing that I let him die believing a lie? I'm lost. I don't know what to do. Should I tell Tom the truth before he dies, or should I let him go peacefully, believing that the baby is his? I know there's no right answer, but I can't keep this secret to myself any longer. Please, if anyone has been in a situation like this, or if you have any advice, I'm begging you to help me figure out what to do.